What kind of person screams at a child in the middle of a crowded mall? Their voice echoing off the polished tiles like a whip cracking through the air. Karen Miller was that person, her face flushed with indignation as she towered over a trembling teenage girl named Sophie, who clutched a smoothie cup so tightly it crumpled in her hands. The mall food court buzzed with the usual chaos, families munching on burgers, teens laughing over fries, but Karen's voice cut through it all, sharp and venomous. "You little brats think you own this place, don't you?" she spat, her chins quivering with rage. Sophie, barely 16, shrank back, her eyes wide with fear. Her friend Mia, standing nearby, froze, unsure whether to run or defend her. The scene unfolded on a Saturday afternoon, the mall packed with weekend shoppers, yet no one moved to intervene. Not yet. Karen's tirade began over something trivial, a spilled drink near her table, a splash of strawberry smoothie that barely touched her oversized purse. But to Karen, it was an affront, a personal attack by entitled kids who dared to exist in her space. She'd been watching Sophie and Mia for 10 minutes, her eyes narrowing as they giggled over their phones, their joy an irritant to her perpetually sour mood. "You think you can just make a mess and walk away?" she bellowed, stepping closer to Sophie, who stammered an apology. The girl's voice was barely a whisper, drowned by Karen's escalating rant about disrespectful youth and bad parenting. Shoppers glanced over, some with pity, others with discomfort, but most kept their distance, unwilling to tangle with the woman whose presence seemed to suck the air out of the room. Across the food court, Emily Carter sat with her son, Ethan, a quiet 12-year-old who'd been watching the scene unfold. Emily, a single mother and high school teacher, felt her stomach twist as Karen's voice grew louder. She'd seen her kind before, bullies who thrived on power, who picked on the vulnerable to feel big. Ethan tugged at her sleeve, his eyes wide. "Mom, she's scaring that girl," he whispered. Emily nodded, her jaw tightening. She'd taught her students to stand up to injustice, to speak when others stayed silent. But this wasn't a classroom. This was real, raw, and messy. Still, something in Sophie's trembling frame, the way her shoulders hunched, the way her eyes darted for an escape, lit a fire in Emily. She stood, leaving her half-eaten salad behind, and began weaving through the tables toward the confrontation. Karen didn't notice Emily approaching. She was too busy berating Sophie, now accusing her of ruining everyone's day. Mia, braver now, tried to step in, her voice shaking. "It was an accident, lady. Leave her alone." Karen wheeled on her, her face contorting into a sneer. "Don't you dare talk back to me, you little—" The word never landed. Emily's voice cut through, calm but firm, like a blade slicing through chaos. "Excuse me, ma'am. That's enough." The food court seemed to hold its breath. Karen turned, her eyes narrowing at the slim, unassuming woman standing before her. Emily's posture was steady, her gaze unwavering, but inside, her heart pounded. She wasn't here to fight. She was here to protect. "Who do you think you are?" Karen snapped, her voice dripping with disdain. She sized Emily up, clearly expecting her to back down. Most people did, but Emily didn't flinch. "I'm someone who doesn't let adults bully kids," she said, stepping closer to Sophie, who looked at her with a mix of relief and disbelief. Karen laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Oh, please, these kids need discipline. Their parents clearly don't care." Emily's eyes flashed. "I'm a parent, and I care. Step away from her." The words hung in the air, a challenge wrapped in quiet resolve. Karen's smirk faltered, just for a moment, but she doubled down, her voice rising. "You're going to regret sticking your nose in this." What Karen didn't know, what no one in the food court could have known, was that Emily wasn't just a teacher. She was a former lawyer, one who'd left the courtroom to raise Ethan, but still carried the sharp instincts of someone who'd faced down worse than Karen. And she'd seen the security cameras blinking above, recording every word, every gesture. Karen's arrogance, her refusal to back down, was digging her own grave. Emily's mind raced, calculating her next move. She needed to de-escalate, to protect Sophie and Mia without giving Karen more fuel. But as Karen stepped closer, her finger jabbing toward Emily's face, something shifted. This wasn't just about a spilled drink anymore. This was about power, about who got to wield it and who got to suffer. The crowd was growing now, phones subtly raised, capturing the scene. Karen, oblivious, kept going, her voice a relentless assault. You think you're some hero? These kids are trash. And you're no better. Sophie's eyes welled with tears, and Mia's fists clenched, but Emily held her ground. She glanced at the girls, her voice soft but clear. You don't have to listen to her. You're okay. Then, to Karen, she said, You're done here. Walk away. Karen's face reddened, her mouth opening for another tirade. But something in Emily's steady gaze stopped her. For the first time, doubt flickered in her eyes. She wasn't used to resistance. But the fight was far from over. Karen's ego wouldn't let her retreat, not in front of an audience. She straightened, her voice dropping to a menacing growl. You'll regret this. I know people. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you are. Emily almost smiled. Karen's threat was empty, but it revealed something crucial. She was scared. Scared of losing control, of being seen for what she truly was. Emily's mind flashed to her old courtroom days, to the way bullies crumbled when their bluster was exposed. She didn't need to yell. She didn't need to threaten. She just needed the truth. And the truth was coming, faster than Karen could imagine. Karen's threat hung in the air like smoke, but Emily didn't flinch. She'd heard worse in courtrooms, from men in suits who thought their money made them untouchable. Karen was no different, just louder, more desperate. The food court was a pressure cooker now, the air thick with tension as shoppers edged closer, their murmurs blending with the clatter of trays. Sophie and Mia stood behind Emily, their breathing uneven, their trust in her fragile but growing. Emily's voice stayed steady, cutting through Karen's bluster. You don't know me, she said, but I know exactly who you are, and you're not scaring anyone here. Karen's eyes widened, her bravado cracking, but she wasn't ready to fold. Not yet. The twist came quietly, almost unnoticed at first. A woman in a mall security uniform emerged from the crowd, her badge glinting under the lights. Her name tag read Lila, and her expression was one of weary familiarity. She'd dealt with Karen before. Ma'am, Lila said, addressing Karen directly. We've had complaints about you before. This needs to stop. The words hit like a thunderclap. Karen's face froze, her mouth half open as she processed the revelation. Complaints? Plural? The crowd murmured louder now, phones still recording, capturing the moment Karen's facade began to crumble. Emily caught Lila's eye, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. This wasn't just about Sophie's spilled drink. Karen had a history, a pattern of terrorizing kids, of throwing her weight around like she owned them all. Lila's presence shifted the dynamic. Karen's voice faltered, but she tried to rally, pointing at Sophie and Mia. These girls started it. They disrespected me. Lila didn't blink. I saw the whole thing, ma'am. You escalated this. And we have it on camera. The mention of cameras sent a ripple through the crowd. Karen's eyes darted to the ceiling, where the blinking red lights of security cameras stared back. Her confidence was unraveling, but she clung to it, her voice rising in pitch. This is outrageous. I'm a paying customer. I have rights. Lila crossed her arms, unmoved. So do they, she said, nodding toward the girls. And so does everyone else you've harassed here. Emily seized the moment, her lawyer's instincts kicking in. You've been bullying kids for weeks, haven't you? She asked, her tone calm but pointed. The staff know you. The cameras know you. And now, everyone here does too. The crowd's murmurs grew into a low hum of agreement. Karen's face flushed deeper, her hands balling into fists. She wasn't used to being called out, to being seen. But Emily wasn't done. You picked on Sophie because she's young, because you thought no one would stop you. But you're wrong. Sophie, still trembling, lifted her chin slightly, drawing strength from Emily's words. Mia, bolder now, added, You're just a bully. The word stung, and Karen's eyes darted between the girls, Emily, and Lila, searching for an escape. The truth was out, and it was brutal. Karen wasn't just a one-time offender. Shoppers began to whisper, sharing stories of her outbursts, how she'd screamed at a barista for getting her coffee order wrong, how she'd berated a janitor for blocking her path. The mall had been her kingdom, and she'd ruled it with fear. But kingdoms fall when the ruled fight back. Emily's presence, Lila's authority, and the crowd's growing courage were dismantling Karen's power, piece by piece. Yet she wasn't ready to surrender. "You can't do this to me," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "I'll sue. I'll call my lawyer." Emily almost laughed. She knew the law better than Karen ever would, and she knew empty threats when she heard them. The confrontation was reaching its peak. Lila stepped closer, her voice firm. "Ma'am, you need to leave. Now, or I'm calling the police." The word police hit Karen like a slap. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, real fear flickered across her face. She wasn't invincible. She wasn't untouchable. The crowd was no longer just watching, they were judging, their phones capturing every second of her downfall. Emily stayed calm, her arm around Sophie now, shielding her from Karen's glare. "Go home," Emily said softly, almost pityingly. "You've done enough damage." Karen's mouth opened, then closed, her words failing her. She was cornered, exposed, and she knew it. But Karen's ego was a stubborn thing. She took a step toward Emily, her finger raised, ready to unleash another tirade. The crowd tensed, expecting a scream, a shove, something ugly. Instead, Lila stepped between them, her hand resting lightly on her radio. "Last chance," she said. Karen froze, her chest heaving, her eyes darting wildly. The food court was silent now, save for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Everyone waited, watching the woman who'd terrorized their space for weeks. Would she fight? Would she run? The answer came in a single, shaky step backward. Then another. Karen was retreating, but not without a final glare, one that promised retribution. She didn't know it yet, but her reign was over. Karen's retreat wasn't the end. Couldn't be. Bullies like her didn't vanish quietly, they lashed out, doubled down, or hid behind excuses. As she stormed out of the food court, her purse swinging wildly, the crowd parted like a sea, their stares heavy with judgment. Sophie and Mia stood close to Emily, their faces a mix of relief and lingering fear. Lila, the security officer, radioed her team, ensuring Karen's exit was monitored. The cameras had caught everything, every word, every gesture, and Emily knew those recordings would be her ace in the hole. She'd seen cases like this before, where unchecked behavior escalated until someone got hurt. She wasn't about to let that happen. The food court slowly returned to its normal rhythm, but the air felt different, charged with a quiet victory. Emily knelt beside Sophie, her voice gentle. "You okay?" Sophie nodded, tears spilling over, but her smile was real. "Thank you," she whispered. Mia, still shaken, added, "I thought she was going to hit her." Emily's heart ached. No child should feel that kind of fear, not in a place meant for joy. She gave the girls her number, urging them to call if Karen ever approached them again. As they thanked her, their gratitude raw and unfiltered, Emily felt a pang of something deeper, grief for her own past, for the times she'd stayed silent when she could have spoken up. She wouldn't make that mistake again. Lila approached, her expression softening. "We've got enough to ban her from the mall," she said. "She's been a problem for months, harassing kids, yelling at staff." This was the last straw. Emily nodded, her mind already racing. A ban was a start, but Karen's behavior screamed of deeper issues, ones that wouldn't vanish with a security escort. "Can you get me the footage?" Emily asked. Lila hesitated, then nodded. "I'll see what I can do." Emily knew the law: public disturbances, harassment, intimidation. If Karen pushed further, there'd be legal consequences, and Emily was ready to make sure they stuck. Days later, the story spread. A shopper had posted the video online, carefully edited to blur Sophie and Mia's faces but leaving Karen's tirade in full view. The internet did what it does best. It amplified. Comments poured in, calling Karen out, praising the brave mom who'd stood up to her. Emily avoided the spotlight. She didn't want fame, just justice, but the mall's management didn't. They issued a statement, confirming Karen's ban and promising stricter policies on harassment. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Sophie and Mia, emboldened by the support, started a small campaign at their school, encouraging kids to speak up about bullies, adult or otherwise. Their courage, sparked by that awful day, was a quiet revolution. Karen, meanwhile, was unraveling. The video had reached her social circle, her workplace, her family. Whispers followed her. Neighbors who'd once tolerated her now avoided her. Co-workers who'd ignored her rants now judged her. She tried to fight back, posting a rambling defense online, claiming she was the victim, that the girls had provoked her. But the footage didn't lie. Her words, her sneers, her finger jabbing at a terrified teen, they were undeniable. The mall ban was just the beginning. When Sophie's parents, informed by Emily, pressed charges for harassment, Karen faced a court date. Emily offered to testify, her old legal instincts flaring. She didn't want revenge. She wanted accountability, the kind that forced people like Karen to face themselves. In the weeks that followed, Emily reflected on what had happened. She'd acted on instinct, driven by a mother's need to protect, but it had become something bigger. She started volunteering at a local youth center, teaching kids how to stand up to bullies without losing themselves. Sophie and Mia joined her sometimes, their confidence growing with every session. The mall, once a battleground, became a place of healing. Shoppers smiled at Emily when they recognized her, their nods a quiet thank you. Ethan, her son, beamed with pride. "You're like a superhero, Mom," he said one night, his voice full of awe. Emily laughed, but inside, she felt something shift. She wasn't a hero. She was just someone who'd refused to look away. The story didn't end with Karen's downfall. It ended with a ripple effect, with kids like Sophie and Mia finding their voices, with a community waking up to the power of standing together. Karen's punishment wasn't just a ban or a court date, it was the loss of her illusion of control, the exposure of her cruelty to a world that wouldn't forgive it. For Emily, it was a reminder that courage wasn't loud or flashy. It was showing up, speaking out, and trusting that one voice could change everything. And as she watched Sophie laugh with Mia at the mall weeks later, no longer afraid, Emily knew that change had already begun.